What's up, SDS Nation, and welcome to another episode of Surviving the Survivor, the podcast that, promises to bring you the very best guests in all of true crime. You can tell I'm making it barely to the finish line as we head off on a family adventure to see where my mother was hidden during the war. The CTO thought it would be a good idea to travel to Los Angeles first from Miami before heading to Europe. And that is where I'm coming to you from this evening, an undisclosed location in Los Angeles. But welcome, one and all. There is a possible big development in the missing Colorado mom case. Of course, we're talking about Suzanne Morphew. Prosecutors in a courtroom recently said that they believe they know where she is, presuming that is where her body might be. So the question is, where is she, and who is ultimately responsible for this crime if, in fact, she was murdered? There are a few guests, one who is going to join us, I believe, momentarily, who have been on this case literally from the very, very onset, from the beginning, and know more than most. Kurt Simpson, he also goes by AK, the man with the beard and the bald head, good looking beard and bald head. He is founder of the nonprofit called Hope Rocks, and it is spelled HOPEROX, all one word. He works alongside Martin Smallwood, pictured above him. And even though Martin is wearing a Los Angeles shirt where I am, he is coming to us live from Ireland, across the ocean. The Hope Rocks team is comprised of hundreds of volunteers from around the world coming together for the sole purpose of crowdsourced investigations and support. It was all born out of the Suzanne Morphew case, which AK began working on 2 months post murder. So obviously, this is fairly fresh. I just want to remind everyone you can follow us on Facebook, Insta, Twitter. We are at Podcast STS. On Instagram, going to be posting pictures from our adventure at Surviving the Survivor. Follow me on Insta if you want to see the lunacy that is my family. The merch store is open. And without further ado, we'll welcome our two guests that are here right now. Kurt, how did you get so interested and invested in the Suzanne Morphew case? I mean, to the point that you've even started a nonprofit based on it.
Well, it's a long story. I want to say first, the journey that you're on, people do need to check out because you just speaking about it behind the scenes was very powerful and in a good way. So I applaud you for what you're doing. So start with that. But thanks for giving time to Suzanne. This is what it's about. Is Suzanne Morphew. I was kind of abducted from a friend of mine who was searching for Suzanne, a good friend, an ex-Navy veteran, and brought into this. And once I got a little bit in, it started getting bigger. I've been a private investigator for 20 years and plus, and it's always been a dream to have like a crowdsourced and platform or minds of all types coming together to help kind of solve the problems or the questions that you can't really solve alone. And there's power in numbers. So the thoughts, the different approaches and different experiences in life helps bring it together. And that's what started down this journey. And that's where we are right now.
So Kurt, you are a private investigator. That was your profession prior to this?
I did that for 20 years, part-time for about 13, but I've been in all types of investigations. But yeah, I was a private investigator. I'm not ex-law enforcement. I'm not ex-FBI like you have a wonderful Special Agent Johnny Grusing on here. I'm not of that caliber. I do believe that the product that we produce is of that caliber, though, because you have so many people that can hone it and tear it apart. Like Martin and I have drag out fights on the phone sometimes. It's fun because you hash out the differences, and that makes you become more confident on where you're going.
By the way, Jennifer's asking who is Carol McKinley in the picture above, and then it was answered right away because STS Nation is awesome. Answered by Mo Hartman. I'm really happy to see Carol McKinley as a guest. She is supposed to be arriving momentarily. She is a wise and experienced journalist, well respected in Colorado and beyond for many years. Grateful for her dedication and effort. We will see if, in fact, she does show up. Dom's mom telling me she's helping spread the word about Ellen Greenberg. That is a young Philadelphia woman found stabbed 20 times, 10 to the back, 10 to the front, including 2 that an independent autopsy showed occurred after she had died, and it was ruled a suicide. Her fiance was with her. We have been working on that story. We will continue to work on it. A really quick programming note before I forget. We will be back live tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Pacific Time, for Great Scott, True Crime Phil with Detective Phil Waters and former FBI agent Scott Duffy. They will be here. And then Monday night, we're doing a special on Dan Markel. He was murdered back in 2014 on July 18th. So the anniversary of his death is coming up. And then after that, we will be bringing you Surviving My Biggest Case stories and relaunching some original episodes that a lot of people have not seen till we're back roughly August 3rd. So bear with us and thank you. And I know the cameras today are a little weird and I'm looking in weird spots because I have a totally new setup. So look at this, a kind comment, I think. 2 shows yesterday, an episode tonight. Somebody's a diligent man. I'm lost with time zone. So am I at this point. It's Friday here, everybody. They must be coming from watching from Australia. And the show we did last night, if you did not see it, with Ross Coulthart, the man who blew the whistle on who interviewed the man who blew the whistle on what's happening with the UFO situation. He was here. Super interesting episode.
Very respected guy. He's a very respected guest you had on. Yeah. Seriously, in those realms.
He's big. Speaking of respected guests, there
yes.
she is, Carol McKinley.
Hey,
how are you doing, Carol?
Carol, doing well. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you for joining. Just want to introduce the audience. Carol McKinley is a reporter with the Denver Gazette. She's been a freelance print and broadcast journalist covering news from the Rocky Mountains for 30 years. She's written extensively about Suzanne Morphew for the Denver Gazette, as I just said. She's also a freelance network field producer. She has an MA in religious studies from the University of Denver. So Denver through and through. Before we even get cracking, and I'm assuming, by the way, that, Carol, you do know Kurt and Martin.
I don't know you guys, do I?
No.
We've interacted some on Twitter, I believe.
Okay.
And it's been positive. So that's a good thing. That's a great thing.
So we'll get into
I like what you write.
Yeah, but Kurt and Martin have been kind of citizen investigators. They've been on the case. They've mapped out the area.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, have you?
Yeah. Yes. And we'll get into all that very quickly. Carol, is there anything developing out of this news? And I'm taking us on a total left turn for 1 second about Jean Benet. This alleged killer, has come out again, I think, and made some noise that he's a pedophile that was arrested. You're shaking your head.
Gary Oliva? Are you talking about Gary? That's not new.
Well, something resurfaced from that.
He's been eliminated many times. He's not the killer.
Okay, definitely not.
I mean,
the killer.
Gary Oliva, is he out of jail now?
I don't know. I was looking at something very quickly just before coming on air, so I'll have to check it out a little more thoroughly.
Yeah.
I thought maybe you knew.
He's surfaced many times throughout this case. What is it? Going on 28 years now, and he's a guy who, I mean, I think he confessed several times. He's confessed to a friend, and the friend is the one who keeps things going. And keeps reaching out to the media, but his DNA doesn't match, his fingerprints don't match, his writing doesn't match. He wasn't in Boulder. He did not get into the house. He didn't do it.
Got it. Had to ask, saw the headline. I'll do a
Yeah,
little.
I mean, it's interesting. I never know with John Bonet. It seems like the biggest thing right now is I think there's a big rumble outside the case for people to, for the Boulder police to hand the case over to genealogical and familial DNA experts. And it's like the Boulder police tell me, we've already done that. People think we're so stupid. We're not. We've already done all that.
Yeah.
They've
Do you
tried
think
with
we ever get an answer?
No, you're on the record.
in your lifetime.
Yeah, yeah, and any of our lifetimes.
As long as this DNA is still out there, until they can, if there's no match ever, it's always going to block everything else in the case. People forget there's a 2.5-page ransom note. I mean, that note, if there was no DNA in this case, the note would be crucial. It would be critical evidence. Someone wrote it. I have a really hard time believing that anyone got in the house that night. That's my big problem with that case. It's very hard to believe that someone else got in the house. And there's not a lot of evidence besides the DNA of anyone else being in the house besides the 3 people who already lived there.
Well,
Kind of a hard one.
Yeah, it remains intriguing. All these 28 years later, it's still in everyone's mind. I'll send you the article I just saw.
That's okay.
I was explaining to everyone I've been traveling all day, so my apologies.
That's all right.
Back to Suzanne Morphew, and I understand you might have some limited time, Carol. So whenever you have to bounce, you just let us know. But Suzanne Morphew, for those who do not know, and again, my setup here is a little strange, so if I'm looking in an odd direction, that's why. But Suzanne goes missing on Mother's Day 2020, early in the morning. The 2 daughters were out of town on a camping trip. They text the mother, "Happy Mother's Day." Daughter Mallory informs her father, Barry, that they are unable to reach Suzanne. Barry then reaches a neighbor and asks right away if a mountain bike is there, which is a little odd to me, but I'm no investigator. We can ask Kurt about that in a moment. And then Barry doesn't head home immediately. So that sort of just sets the very broad stage for what happened. But Carol, been talking to Kurt and Martin. When did you start picking up this case as a reporter? At what junction? Was it shortly after she went missing? And
No, I was late. I wasn't even there for the searches.
Okay.
Yeah, I came in late on that one, and I was working for 2020 at the time, and a lot of the other reporters had already been down there, searching with the searchers, getting to know the investigators. 1 or 2 even talking to Barry Morphew, but no, I didn't come in for another couple of weeks after that.
Okay. Well, what made news most recently is the deputy district attorney, a guy named Mark Hurlbert, in court came out and basically said that they know the location of the body, and went on to say, and this is a quote, "She's in a very difficult spot. We actually have more than just a feeling," this assistant district attorney said, and the sheriff's office is continuing, he said, to look for Mrs. Morphew's body. Carol, do you have anything else on that? I mean, is it a done deal? Do they know that she was definitively killed and that her body is laying somewhere in the Colorado wilderness?
Well, I don't think they know that. I think they suspect that. And there's really no evidence of her body. There's no blood. That makes it really hard. There are all kinds of theories about this. If Barry did it, there are theories that he either left her body somewhere around the house or maybe even disposed of her on the way up to Broomfield that day in different places along the way. That's if he did it. If he didn't, I've heard theories about Jeff Libler, the boyfriend. Maybe he hired a hitman. I've heard theories that she ran away. I don't think that's possible. But there is a theory that she ran off. And last year, I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was a a homeless woman down in Colorado Springs.
That the defense introduced as, hey, judge, there's a homeless lady that looks similar to this missing woman, so she could be her.
Yeah, there was a lot of actually the lady resembled her from behind, and apparently she had perfect teeth, and no one could understand why anybody who was homeless who could be Suzanne's age and be dressed, in old clothes. But then suddenly when she smiled, she had this dazzling smile. And so everybody thought that it could have been her and that she maybe hit her head. I mean, there are people who think she did hit her head, and maybe.
We identified that person. It wasn't her. It was an actual person.
Yeah, right.
That was not down there. So that's a good thing.
I mean, that's the kind of thing that's, there are all kinds of things out there. It's so sad that there's no trace of her.
Yeah, and Carol, do we know, because you mentioned Jeff Libler, that was the person we found out she was having an affair with through that spy pen that we'll get to. Was there any indication that their relationship had soured or he was fearful that the wife would find out, anything of that sort?
There really wasn't. There really wasn't. Like their last text to each other were at 2:00 on Saturday before Mother's Day, and she sent him a picture of herself sunbathing. It's a really pretty picture of her. I think she has her hand on her chin, and she looks very serene. And that's the last known proof of life photo we have. But the weird thing is he didn't really text her after that to find out, where are you? I think there might have been a Happy Mother's Day.
There was, yeah. Mm-hmm.
He got rid of his cell phone. He didn't tell anybody about her after she went missing. And in fact, police had to seek him out. I don't think they even interviewed him until that fall.
You're talking about Jeff Libler.
Yeah.
The man in a different state that she was having an affair with.
Yeah.
They ran his whole everything. They ran his alibi, and he was proved to be not in the area. So, but who knows the thing?
I mean, I think the theory from the defense is that he might have hired somebody, because he's got credit. I think he went to the, Home Depot or Walmart or something. And there's a credit card receipt or something. But I'm just telling you. I mean, there's just a
plethora of information out there just floating around, right?
There's about 8 different theories.
Yeah, so I'm going to get Maui Swift here says justice for Suzanne, followed by Tilo from Boston, a friend of the show. Is it true they say they know where she is but can't get to her? We have not heard yet from a patient, Martin Smallwood. I've been calling Martin Underwood because of my autocorrect, so apologies to Martin Smallwood. Martin, you are coming to us from Ireland,
yes,
far away. What has garnered your interest in this case, and how did you team up with Kurt?
Well, it was COVID and lockdown, and everyone's sitting at home on their laptops and watching YouTube videos. And I happened to watch the Adventures with Purpose, the guys that they look for the cars and whatever underneath the water. And Kurt happened to be on that episode. There was 2 episodes, and I seen the poster, and I just got interested in the case. And as soon as I finished that program, I searched the Suzanne, and I was just taken in with it straight away. And I suppose nearly 8 months later, we got in contact, myself and Kurt, and we've been like Siamese twins ever since. So
every day.
Yeah, in that 8-month period it took you to get, and again, Kurt is the founder of Hope Rocks, HOPEROX, all one word. It's a nonprofit that helps look for victims like this. In that 8-month period before you connected with Kurt, were you working on this case in that time on your own?
Yes,
so,
I was on my own.
Your background is also, it's funny, the tagline of our show, Surviving the Survivor, is best guess in true crime. Typically, they are former FBI agents, former DEA agents, journalists with a pedigree like Carol McKinley. We don't find average citizens all the time who are doing this. Not to call you average, you know what I mean. But
I get you. Yeah.
But you don't have a background in law enforcement, is that correct?
No.
Wow. Okay. And so tell me, Kurt, Carol just mentioned she got on after quote unquote the searches, which is a big deal in Colorado. When did those searches, how soon after she went missing did those searches begin? And what was your role, if any, in those searches?
I didn't get involved until those searches actually. So about mid-July, I believe, Carol, if I'm not mistaken, that's about when you came in. Mid to late July is whenever I came in. Yeah, that's what I believe. And that's whenever I was taken down there for the first time, and we did some searches, and I got a pretty bad infection from a spider, and I had to go home because I was getting septic and spent some time getting fixed up from that. But after that, it's just been consistent going. At first, I spent a lot of time looking at the mines, looking in the mines. We now have an arsenal of equipment, but back then we didn't have fishing pole and a GoPro, some ropes to get up the mountains and to hold yourself and sleep in a hammock. I spent 8.5 months down in Salida in the last 2.5 years of the search until we found the data. And that pulled me out of just wandering around aimlessly, not aimlessly, but searching mines and whatnot, to being a lot more specific on the areas of possibilities that could be searched, because it's impossible to search that entire area down there.
I'm sorry, I missed what you said. Until you found what?
Data.
Got it.
Once the data was introduced by the defense, the telemetric data from the Bobcat, which is 5 days worth of telematics from the Bobcat, disconnected on the day, Saturday, the day before she was missing. The telematic data on the Bobcat was 100% accurate and foolproof. So whenever you start looking at all the pieces of the puzzle, you put the Bobcat data together, they did a search. They dug up a foundation of a building, of a house being built alongside the river. But they had not accessed or analyzed the data contained in the Bobcat telematic module. If they had, they would have maybe chose a different search location. And that is part of the issue that we're facing here. We've got a lot of missing pieces that weren't taking place, or weren't figured in their minds at first, and it should have been, because it paints a picture. Just I could go through my Google Earth day by day, minute by minute, or my Excel spreadsheet with 4,000 entries, minute by minute, with every phone call, every text, his second phone that he had, when he turned off his telematics to his truck, when he turned it back on because he wanted to be located, when he pulled and disconnected the power to the telematics on the Bobcat on that Saturday.
We're going to get into some of that, because I'm very interested, and I'm far from a data guy myself. But Carol, Mo Hartman, we've got 56,000 strong here, STS Nation, our audience and our community. Wow. Mo Hartman asking or making the comment that I'm curious to get a response from you on. Colorado has too many domestic violence, homicides, and missing persons. The number of high-profile murder cases in the state is embarrassing. This case of Suzanne Morphew must get resolved. Is this an accurate statement in your opinion?
Oh, we have a lot. And it seems like every one we have is something, it's more strange than the next. I don't know if you remember Chris Watt. Mm-hmm. He's the guy, who was accused of putting his daughters in the oil drums. I mean, Patrick Frazee with Kelsey Barrett, that's the one where the nurse from Idaho turned the whole case because she helped get rid of the body.
Well, I just interviewed Johnny Grusing on Scott Kimball.
Oh, I love Johnny Grusing. He's awesome. Harold Henthorne, Johnny Grusing did that one. That was the guy who killed his wife in Estes Park. He was taking a picture. Back a little further, and then poof.
And Johnny got the cell phone pings. He utilized cell phone pings in 2018, and puts him there. And this is the same agent that was being tripped up on the stand by the defense, and it's because he wasn't thoroughly prepared.
You know,
You know,
he's an
when they were
amazing guy.
talking about moving through walls at 50 or 34 miles per hour, the defense caught him out. It wasn't well thought through, and he hadn't had time to properly look at the data yet, I think, because he's a smart guy, especially
Yeah.
with all the cases he's done with cellular pings. I hope he gets a hold of our information.
Well,
He's gonna
Carol, I
take
may have inadvertently just brought you two sources. Martin, since you're coming to us from
I know, I'm
Ireland,
so excited to see you guys. This is awesome.
Martin, for those who don't know a lot about the case, and that's me included, you know, I play a journalist on TV, so I depend on bigger, brighter minds. Explain to everyone, what does the Bobcat have to do with this, and how did that help with the data precision?
Well, like he used the Bobcat for about 5 days beforehand, and so we were able to track him where he was, say from the Monday, and so you either had him in his truck, or you had him in his Bobcat, or you had him on his phone. So we were able to basically trace Barry's movements for the whole week. There's obviously holes here and there where we have no telematics or data, but very interesting. The Bobcats, especially on the Friday. The Friday was very interesting.
Wow.
It was all down at the
dig
Vanderbilt Road.
site.
Yeah,
The place
they
where
dug
they
the foundation.
foundation.
So
And it wasn't anywhere near where they were digging up the pylons in the foundation.
I spent the whole day basically on that beach site. So that's exactly where the Bobcat was, on that where the dog hit.
But that's
Andy.
not where they dug up.
No, they never dug that part up.
Okay.
But that's where the Bobcat was for that whole day, basically up till 5:41.
So Kurt, I'm sorry, Martin, go ahead.
Go on. But on the Saturday, we had very interesting with the Bobcat again, because in the morning he picks up Morgan at the
his worker
at the Anytime Fitness, and the Bobcat then is running. He has got the Bobcat running on the back of the trailer. So he drives down to County Road 105, down Vanderbilt Road.
We know this because Bobcats don't travel at 57 miles an hour.
Yes.
They top out at 13.
And he's walking down there again, just for a couple of hours, about an hour and a half, I think, maybe an hour and a little bit longer, hour 40 minutes.
And what does the worker tell about her experience that morning?
She says, do you know that a pig can consume a body within 2 hours? And Barry turns around and says, I could bury a body and it'd never be found. That was on Saturday
How do you
morning.
know that statement was made? How do you know that the worker said this?
She stated it to the FBI. She also stated it to channel or to Lauren Sharp during an interview.
Lauren, yeah.
Okay.
It was an odd statement, very odd statement.
Very odd. And they were only together for what, 3 minutes or 5 minutes before that statement was even brought up. So how could that be introduced as a hello, welcome, here's your coffee? A pig could consume a body. You don't just go there.
And
so it's a little bit odd.
And that was an employee of Barry Morphew, you're saying?
Yes.
A subcontractor. He didn't have employees, but he got his COVID loan for 13 employees.
He paid her cash.
Yeah. Wasn't one of the employees? Didn't he die recently?
Yes, Jeffrey Puckett. Jeffrey Puckett. I interviewed him. He's a witness, and he. It's a long story, but yeah, I had a good rapport with Jeff, and I considered him somebody who was inside the mix, and he knew something was going to happen to him. He made some statements, and Special Agent Johnny Grusing actually knows these statements. I know he does because they were given to him, but he's made some specific statements before he passed because he thought that he was going to die. He felt like he was being poisoned. Yeah, he thought somebody was poisoning him.
Wow. How old was this person?
I think he was 44, and he died of acute methamphetamine overdose.
43, 44, yeah.
Wow. And what do you know his name?
Jeffrey Puckett.
Jeff Puckett.
What's the last name?
Puckett. Puckett.
Jeff
Hope
Puckett.
Rocks actually helped to get the GoFundMe promoted enough to get his body cremated and sent back to his family in North Carolina.
And do you know how was his manner of death ruled? Was it natural causes?
Acute overdose of methamphetamine. And he was a user. He was a self-admitted user of methamphetamine, but he didn't do anything else. He wasn't a drinker. He didn't. There has been so much said about this man, but in the end, he was about religion. He was about having a pure heart, understanding he has deficits, but not judging others for theirs. It was kind of a cool experience to talk to him, to meet him. I've since spoken with his with his wife, his stepdaughters, and a couple other people, and his sister. So it's been a very, very pretty cool thing to hear. But he was actually interviewed early on, and he says she's either Barry did it, and she's either in a mine up above the house or
aliens
took her.
Well,
did Barry kill her?
Which is probably closer to the truth than all the other theories. Is the aliens actually came down and took her?
We did a show about aliens last night. There is
Exactly.
I'm not. That's what I'm saying.
the whole world is intersecting in a strange way. Marla Hannah says, "I wonder if Barry watches these." Barry Morphew,
Yes,
an open invite.
He's watching. Yeah, he's watching.
Yeah.
Is he?
You think he is?
Yeah,
100%. 1000%. His lawyer
and Iris team, they were watching.
Well, Barry Morphew, it's
lawyer
survivingthesurvivor@gmail.com. Give me a call. I'll get you on. I'll give you a platform. We've got 56,000 members of SDS Nation. Some months we're getting over 2 million views. So come on, you've got a big platform here.
You guys are awesome. Did you guys see that Iris Aton? I'm sure you saw it. One of the in that document dump that she requested that the fact that he watched these shows not be part of.
Yes.
Because
speaking
of, there was a podcast about a little girl or a young woman being murdered, and the bike was staged to look like it was a crash bike scene.
It was a young girl, actually.
She was a younger girl, and she ended up being murdered and placed somewhere else by this person. And that was an episode that was caught on this spy pen that was put inside of his truck while he was driving around, because he would listen to crime podcasts and crime shows on satellite, along with taking calls and whatnot. But
so she didn't want everybody to know that he had heard, something that was very specific to how this crime occurred.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's a lot more. There's a lot more. We could do an episode every day for a month, and we would 100%. Be about 50% with giving out the information.
I have a feeling Carol's going to be asking me for your guys' numbers. And look,
Carol,
you guys have a fan base here. This is not the only comment. AK and Martin, hello. So excited to see you here. Barry's going down. Followed Carol by I am not T-Pain. Apart from Barry's odd behavior, which was strange after she went missing, is there a clear indication, Carol, that he is responsible for Suzanne's disappearance? Or did the prosecution jump the gun just because he was the spouse?
People ask that. And when you look at that arrest affidavit, that's not a small thing.
No.
That Johnny
129 pages.
That is a beautiful arrest affidavit. And it's thorough.
Fabulous. It's fabulous.
So if you got that arrest affidavit and you're the DA, I think I've seen affidavits with 2 pages where they've arrested somebody. That is a very thorough affidavit. So.
But it's in some parts there, Carol. It's inaccurate. It's inaccurate.
Yeah.
So the AA, we can literally prove at least 25 inaccuracies, and rightly so, because they didn't have specific things like knowledge of clocks being wrong or why. And there's been 4 different authors. We can identify 3. One speaks of them as. Okay, so Barry's device called Suzanne's device after a specific time. And the other author says Suzanne calls Barry. So the specific wording, you have to read every single line twice, because it's been copied and pasted and put together by 3 or 4 different authors.
I see.
And you can see the writing style of the original thought process and then the revision.
So do you think they jumped the gun?
I think they 100% jumped the gun.
They jumped the gun, but
this is the first time in Colorado history that anybody at CBI, Colorado Bureau of Investigation, the head of CBI actually called the DA and the sheriff and begged them not to arrest on that day.
Well, this is we've had other panelists who says that this has been completely botched by the state, this case. And the arrest affidavit, I have a quote here. It says it had become clear that Barry could not control Suzanne's insistence on leaving him, and he resorted to something he has done his entire life, hunt and control Susan like he had hunted and controlled animals. And we'll get into this in a moment with Carol about how he was set to go on trial for murder, and the case was suddenly dismissed. But before we get there, Martin, Kurt says you two speak and you're in Ireland on the phone very late into the night, and he's even on West Coast time, so it's even later for you. What do you talk about all these nights? What do you discuss?
Just we bounce off each other. We find stuff. I find stuff during the day when Kurt is asleep, and he finds it when I'm asleep, and we come together and we go through it like a fine.
And if we don't agree with it, we don't agree with it. We will fight it out until it's agreed upon, or we reach out for the second tier and the third tier people to jump in or give us your opinion. We put out surveys. That's where the crowdsource comes in, and you get different perspectives from so many different minds. It's just a beautiful thing.
If someone wants to help, if someone wants to become part of this, cyber search, if you will, this data search that you're doing, and you're also doing it physically at times in person, how does one become part of Hope Rocks, or how do they get in touch with you?
Well, it's taken a long time to get where we are. In doing what we do every day, like being gone for almost a year out of, your priorities have to be your family, your mental health, and then the files that you're working on. I was interrupted for 3 months with the Suzanne case because there was a local older woman missing that we were trying to find. We had so many people doing so many different things, but at this point right now, it's not ready yet to actually be a thing. We use it as a way to funnel the YouTube $10-15 a month that we get into the nonprofit coffers, so we can eventually build out the website, set it up how we want to, and get things going. But right now, it's not something that we're trying to expand because of Suzanne. We have to get this information to the right hands for Suzanne's case. And Carol, you're the perfect vehicle for something like this because you are no nonsense, and I can tell from your Twitter feed and the articles that you have written, you love facts. I will blow your mind.
Wow. Well, there's so much I don't know, obviously.
There's piles.
I mean,
did you know about this?
And I think we've gotten lazy out here.
There's so many people that don't know what we know.
Oh, we've gotten so lazy. Whoa, there goes my ear thing. But I mean, after this case was dismissed, Iris Aton was known for never talking to the press. She's a very good lawyer. And hold on just a minute. My dog's going to eat my
Martin, I'm going to go to you real quick.
Suddenly she's feeding the press, she's going after the Stanley.
She started her nonprofit.
Yeah. And so that's been interesting. But we all feel helpless. I mean, we don't know what to do. John Speasy says the case is open. I don't know what he's doing. Linda Stanley has a couple more years.
Colorado. The case is actually at CBI in the cold case files. After 3 years, it goes cold in Colorado. I don't understand how a Chaffee County is saying that they're actively working when it should be the cold case detectives in Denver from various disciplines come in and reevaluate it. I don't understand that.
Yeah. So Martin, again, we started the show by saying that the assistant district attorney believes they know where the body is. Do you believe, you and Kurt believe you know where the body is?
Yeah, we have about 6 different places.
Data focused places.
Yeah, data focused.
That would allow for it. Yes.
Yeah.
And have you gone to search, or is it just too difficult?
Well, they're on private land, and you can't. It has to be the law enforcement have to be the ones that do. Because the other thing is,
Contamination, crime scene.
contamination, the crime scene, all that sort of stuff has to come into it. So, but we have had drones. Curtis flown drones over all these areas.
We've mapped them to the
yeah.
centimeter,
So
so
you
that
can
way
zoom
we
in
can
and
show.
You can see it like you can see a bit of wrapping paper of a bit of candy on the ground, you know.
Yeah.
So
We for instance, we crowdsourced a drone flight of I-70 in Utah for this missing woman, for the police department and for her family, and we had people looking for cell phone cases.
yes,
I had 86 targets with from over 100 people. I had them going through targets and finding pieces of rectangular things that could be phone cases for me to go out there and physically put my hands on. And that's what we want.
Yeah,
that's what we want.
Do you guys think that there was anything to bury all the different trash dumps up in Broomfield? Because you're saying that there's a spot near Salida, but
the spots that we have, look, as you said earlier on, Suzanne could be anywhere around Salida, up Maysville and whatever, but anywhere between Puma Path and Broomfield as well, you know. But we believe that she's close, you know, she's close to the house, you know, she's close as Salida, like.
And Carol, what do you think, hypothetically, if the body was found, what would that do for the case? With DNA today, would they be able to solve this case, do you think?
Depending on where it's found as well.
Yeah, depending on what state it's in, how she died,
where it is,
where it is.
If it's tied to Barry.
I mean, if there's, if you look at the skull, if there's a crack,
Yeah.
Gosh, it's been so long, but people have figured out from bones after decades what happened to somebody.
Yes.
Hikers have stumbled on remains. But you're right. Gosh, that's a great question. What else do you guys think they would be looking for if there's?
Well, I don't think they've noticed something very important, and it bothers me to this day.
What's that?
When on Saturday, after driving to town from the Puma Path home, leaving Suzanne, going to town to work, is having this talk with his contractor Morgan, and making the beach site flat. And Morgan said that Barry looked like he had the worst night of his life the night before. They were supposed to work all day. He called off at 11:30ish. Dropped her off, drove home, and then drove back into town and had a blade changed on his Bobcat and the telematics unit, which is a GPS service. It's a subscription-based service. Barry had some issues with billing. He wasn't the most accurate biller of his time. And so they made him put this GPS unit on his Bobcat, get it activated. And it was activated for a week. And that was the power to that telematic unit was cut 100% on Saturday while he was down at DSI getting his blade changed. Then he goes back home.
16.
But before he leaves, we see the photos. The trailer is completely clean and the tires and stuff in the Bobcat are completely clean. Yet when you next see the Bobcat, that Bobcat was unloaded and there is dirt in that trailer where there was no dirt to the last time that thing had telematics on it. That tells me a huge story. Between the time that it left on Saturday, when it was clean, trailer was clean, there was some aggregate placed onto that trailer, hauled somewhere. That Bobcat was utilized.
You can see it on the helicopter video.
Yes, there's a helicopter flyover. You can see it. Yeah, it's crazy.
Kurt, for those who don't know what telematics is, can you explain?
It's a recording of positional data, usually via GPS. So you can tell. Yeah, the odometer, the speedometer. So vehicles have different telemetric systems. Barry's truck has its own, and he also has an infotainment system, which records your incoming, outgoing calls, your GPS, non-phone aided GPS routes. Any
Doors
place
opening,
you
closing.
type in. Yeah, it's got several different modules: the lights, inside lights, and outside lights. The doors, the parking, the gear shifts, and the engine status. So you can track a lot from from not just the data from the Bobcat, but from the truck as well. And there's a lot of it that's missing. I mean, we only have a tenth of what the actual investigation has. So we're not going to play like we know everything. But in just the tenth that we have, we've been able to eliminate so much and so much expansive territory to search that with what the law enforcement have, if they just followed the same procedure and overlaid theirs with ours, we believe it would lead to the location of Suzanne.
Catherine in Hawaii, missed the intro. Is this your new studio, Joel? No, it is not. I am coming to you from an undisclosed location in Los Angeles because the chief technical officer, also known as my wife, decided it would be a good idea to come out here before we go, which is her homeland, before we embark on an amazing adventure. My mother, as you guys all know, is a Holocaust survivor. And for the first time ever, she's taking myself, my wife, and my kids to Europe, to Serbia, to see where she was hidden during the war. So we are stopping here along the way for some family business. Heading there, you're going to get programming every day. We're going to relaunch a couple of episodes, including one where my mom decided to give a grandson of a Nazi who came on our show prior to being True Crime. She gave him and another Holocaust survivor a bit of an earful, and you'll find out why over the next week or so. And then we are back in full force with the new studio August 3rd-ish, around then. Follow me on Instagram, Surviving the Survivor. I'm going to be posting some information and pictures from this trip, and I'll do a couple of YouTube lives with Carm, my beautiful mother, screaming at me at different points along the way, which she certainly will. Carol, back to you. Just to circle back on the prosecution. So the defense here, they pressed the judges to impose severe sanctions on the prosecution for failing to turn over potentially exculpatory evidence in a timely manner. Ultimately, the judge here, Judge Lama, Judge Lama excluded, I believe, 11 of 16 key witnesses. And so because of that, the murder trial was ultimately dismissed. Carol, do you know where we stand right now with all of that?
You know, I don't have a good feeling. Actually, we don't even have a judge, a consistent judge on this. The judge that let all those records go a couple of weeks ago was just an interim person in a completely different county.
And the third judge on the case. First was Judge Murphy, who was shopped out of the case.
I don't have a good feeling at all, but maybe I don't know what they're really doing right now. I feel like the prosecutorial office is in a flux. Linda Stanley's being investigated.
We know of at least 3 open investigations. 3. Yeah.
Yala says, what's the story in the marriage? Domestic violence, financial motive? Carol, have they been able to pinpoint, investigators that is, if the husband did do this, why? We know she was having an affair. We know that.
What do you guys know about the domestic violence?
So
I feel like there were some texts where she referred to it.
Yes.
You might have talked to Sheila Oliver about it.
Yes. There's lots of messages between
herself
Sheila
Oliver
texts.
Through a third party, we have.
I don't know about physical abuse. I think there was definite
physical abuse. She said it to her sister. Yeah. It's in her list of grievances. She said it to Sheila.
She said it to Sheila several times. It was 3 times. And then how Macy, the daughter, was wanting to move to Salida to get away from that situation.
Both of them could move into
an apartment together.
Well, she
together.
wanted to get a restraining order. Her daughter did.
Yeah.
For the mom. So, Mom, can you just get a restraining order or just divorce him and don't tell him until it's over with?
And that's part of the equation too, is the two daughters and their allegiance to their dad.
Yeah.
Well,
Martin, this
Barry's back up in Indiana now, right? You saw all that because I think it was Macy on his his business.
That's right. In Indiana.
And she started a capital investment company as well.
Did she?
Mallory has
Mallory,
in Indiana,
Mallory.
and Mallory has a actual property management company in Gunnison, Colorado, as well.
It was
But
Macy
Macy's
in
the one
Indiana.
that lives in Indiana, right?
Yeah. Well, no. That's where it was registered in
There's I think
Barry's house.
she's still going to college in Western State. I thought.
Yeah.
Martin, Raoul Thomas, why did the dogs hit on the Bobcat? I apologize if you guys sort of went over this, but can you respond to this? I'm juggling a new set here, dealing with a few complications, but if you want to respond to this question.
Yeah, well, the dogs hit on. There was 3 separate dogs, and each dog hit on the trailer. So you had the trailer, and you had the Bobcat beside the trailer, and all the 3 dogs hit on the dirt, as we were saying, the aggregate, which is on top of the trailer, which you can see in the copter video of Puma Path, and they all hit on the Bobcat. One of the dogs actually jumped up into the Bobcat and into the seat of the Bobcat.
Dogs don't do well in trial.
They don't. No, they don't.
These ones were 95% for
that's right.
a state certification.
Yes, 95%.
But that was one team out of 3, I think, that they had that were looking at various things. Cadaver, they had search, the bloodhounds searched. The SAR teams had their bloodhounds out there, but the 2 cadaver set of dogs, the first set, we don't know where they were walked. We don't know if they passed by the Bobcat and didn't catch it, or if they were led somewhere else. But this team, there was 3 individual hits from 3 different dogs at this location at the Bobcat. But in the lawsuit that Barry's lawyer has filed against everybody in the state of Colorado and pretty much everybody in the state of Colorado, she states that that law enforcement know that the Bobcat wasn't involved in this crime. I don't know where they get this. And in the AA, in the arrest affidavit, they actually say that at this time, we don't believe that the Bobcat was utilized in this crime. But they missed the fact that it was empty. It was clean. That trailer was clean. The last time we saw any movement on that trailer.
So at 2:10:16, when the Bobcat was disconnected, we could see there was a CCTV camera at DSI looking down at the Bobcat. Well, he was taking the Bobcat in to get the blade changed. And then he heads back to Puma Path, and he parks basically the truck and Bobcat and trailer at the door of the house, at the entrance door. And then he does reverse back at about 9:16 or something like that in the evening. He reverses back the truck and trailer. But when you see it at that night on the 10th, when just before they're leading Barry into the house, you can get a glimpse of the Bobcat and trailer from the 2 cops standing at the edge of the house, and you can see the Bobcat and the trailer parked where they are in the exact same spot as they are in the helicopter video,
which shows the aggregate.
So somehow that truck and trailer, we've no telematics for that because the telematics of the Bobcat was disconnected. So why would he disconnect the Bobcat telematics?
And where did that aggregate come from?
And you can see the dirt on the wheels of wherever he was. There was dirt on the wheels because they were clean.
Martin, how hard is it to disconnect telematics? That seems like something you'd have to have knowledge
No, it could be just the chip. It could be just the chip taken out. But the guy who changed the blade was a mechanic. So
he was like a mechanic on heavy machinery.
Martin, this comment comes from Miss Wee Lassie, who actually watches us in Ireland. The guy, Barry Morphew, worked with concrete and huge boulders. Surely law enforcement should have considered those two things as a potential way of hiding a body. They had to look at that, right, Martin?
Yeah. Like, as I said to Kurt, you could hide 10 bodies in just the area where the house is in Puma Path and never find her. Do you know, if you had the right equipment, you could. Do you know?
I wish I could show you the graphics like on the Google Earth where everything is like plotted and the timeline. You know, the Excel file with 4,000 lines of data and everything with GPS and everything. You know, all in a timely order. It paints a powerful picture, and so none of what we're saying has been speculative. We're raising questions of how did that trailer with that Bobcat that wasn't involved become dirty in the time that the cat telematics was cut at 2:26 or 2:23, and the time that the police held the Bobcat and the crime scene, what they called it, crime scene, for those days. How could that get there?
Well, we're going to have you back on once I get back, and we'll go through, kind of do like a science lesson on the data. We'll bring up all the images with the chief technical officer of the show. Dr. Von Decay, Carol, for you, a question about retrieving the body. Now that it is summer and not winter in Colorado, why aren't they looking for the body? Do we know, Carol?
That's a great question. You know, it's confusing to me because I keep hearing about this one mine. Off the record, people tell me that. And I think at the very bottom of the mine, apparently there's water and they can't get down there.
That water was pumped out of the Garfield mine, and there's another mine called the Shamrock mine, which goes by a different name in the federal database, but it's known to us as the Shamrock mine because of Irish involvement in this case.
Well, are these tiny little mines, or are these big ones?
250-foot shafts, and some of them.
Garfield's huge.
Garfield is huge.
I thought we were talking a tiny little dot mine way up at the. You know, I was told that it's really hard to get up there, and you know, even for people who are really in shape, it's really hard.
You're about a quarter of a mile south at the Garfield mine to the mine that you're talking about.
Kurt, I wanted to ask you, otherwise known as AK, and they've got quite the fan base in the chat room. I
don't know why.
Did you say that you're doing good work? That's why. Did you say that you interviewed Barry himself?
Yeah, I talked to Barry for 38 minutes on the side of the road before I knew anything. Tell
us when and how that. What was your impression when you spoke to
him? By that time, I mean, you already have. I think it was August, if I'm not mistaken. I was driving down the road after clearing Boss Lake. I had swam the lake in a wetsuit, and I didn't have the underwater drone at that time, so it was all by visual. But and I was driving by the entrance into their home HOA on 225, and off of 50, I saw Barry and a couple of his friends and workers working to put on a gate to the HOA because there was a lot of look-you-lose, a lot of journalism people, a lot of journalists going down there to try to interview them and the neighbors. And so he felt compelled to put this up. I pulled over, I asked for a flyer, and the rest is on YouTube. I just put it up there. I edited out 11 minutes and gave that the full unedited version to the FBI. First to the CBI 3 times, and they failed to put it in the case file. And then when I got a hold of an FBI agent, Ken Harris, he actually had me put it into the FBI's file. So that was pretty cool. I've talked to a lot of people that are very close down there that will never be named, but that have provided very good information, because my goal, Sir Joel, is not to prove a murderer guilty. That's not my role in life. I'm not law enforcement. I'm not an attorney. I'm not anything but somebody trying to find closure for a family member, for other people, because I know what it's like not to have closure. And I know that there's not a lot of victim advocates in the state of Colorado that do their jobs. And we just want to bring Suzanne back and have her family get closure, and that's it. The rest of this is on law enforcement's shoulders. It's on the DA's shoulders. It's on the state shoulders. It's on the defense's shoulders. And it's on certain media personalities who choose not to partake or not to expose themselves to certain pieces of evidence because it might sway their opinion differently. We've seen that from the start. This has been a very coordinated rumor and just pure crap being unloaded by people from the defense. I guarantee it's from the defense, and I'll say that with all responsibility, just on me. I know it's been targeted, but at the end of the day, we just need to find Suzanne, and I think we're eliminating the options. If you utilize the data properly and you understand what happened, you can truly paint a picture with the numbers and what can't happen, what can't be possible, what can be possible. And I can't wait to get this into the hands of FBI. We've released version 1, I believe, 9 months ago, Martin? That took us 8.5 months to put together. A straight double check.
You are getting all your data and your information into the hands of law enforcement. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. But to the right law enforcement, because who's investigating it? Because Chaffee County might be investigating it on their minds, but it's transferred to the cold case file in Denver. Johnny Grusing with the FBI, he's not with the FBI anymore, but he's interviewing witnesses who he's previously interviewed in Indiana and locally.
So he's re-interviewing people?
He has been, yes, since the lawsuit started. I don't know if
since the lawsuit
has to do with that. I don't.
What does that have to do with the lawsuit?
Well, you want to ask more pointed questions whenever you're going to be deposed by 100, potentially 100 different lawyers if they chose to. But
wow,
because you have open deposition. He's suing them, saying that the state of Colorado and all these people broke his civil rights, which they may well have. I'm not an attorney. I can tell you 40% of what is in that lawsuit is correct, and I would agree with. 60% of it I can prove unequivocally it's wrong and false and just totally throws it out the window. So that makes it more interesting for these folks that are being sued to get this data and to say, hey, what's going on with this? And that's what I'm hoping happens.
That civil suit that Barry Morphew is filing really opens up a can of worms in terms of what Kurt just said with depositions. Isn't that right?
Yes.
It could come back and be used in a criminal case again, potentially.
100%.
Carol?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Since it was dismissed without prejudice, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that's that happened in John Bonet. Because the Ramsey started suing everybody. If you remember that they even actually sued Fox News because of a story I did. Mm-hmm. And I had about 24 law enforcement officers lined up to be deposed who couldn't talk unless they were made to talk and subpoenaed to talk. And people were begging for that lawsuit to go forward, and it ended up getting dismissed without merit. But I could see that happening here as well. People who weren't allowed, for whatever reason, it got a little messy with Cahill, and CBI.
Yeah.
And maybe this is maybe there will be something that breaks loose.
When we have people with your reach and your understanding and your depth of knowledge, if we could present to you something that you could spend an hour chewing on, asking questions about, I bet when you come back onto Joel, because we're not the best guests on YouTube.
No.
But you could be if you were informed. I bet you would you'd be chomping at the bit to get this information.
100%.
Well, I'm going to certainly put Carol in touch with you guys, and Carol's reporting can go a long way along with your data and helping find this person. Carol, have you interviewed Barry Morphew?
No, I never have.
You never have. So,
No.
Kurt, back to your interview.
You should have Lauren Scharf on. She's the one who's talking.
Yeah. She was supposed to come on tonight. She had a prior engagement. Yeah, she was supposed to come on, but she had
that'd be interesting.
It's
She's-
interesting now since she's not a journalist anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And Carol, with you having your background and your amazing track record, having information and speaking with the actual, Lauren Scharf of the world that actually have interviewed, spent a lot of time too. I think you would make a great team. Even it's
well, when we
needed.
get back, I'm gonna try to reunite you guys with Ms. Scharf. We will get her on here. But Kurt, I wanted to what was your forget like the actual data, which I know you're so focused on, but when you spoke with Barry for those 38 minutes, what was your impression of him?
He didn't like lying. It's odd to say this because this man has displayed nothing but pure lies to everybody, but he would word things in a way that you could interpret your own meanings. I mean, honestly, I gave him total control. I lowered my seat, let him hold the door. He was right there. He knew I was recording. Get my story out, all this stuff. I gave him the power position and let him go. I actually showed him a picture of a shirt that was found a quarter of a mile away from the house that I had recovered, or that CBI recovered, and showed him a picture of a shirt with buckshot in the front, a teal blue small biking shirt with buckshot in the front and nothing out the back, that was wedged in a rock crevice up and at high water mark. And it was weird. He didn't want to have anything to do with it. He says immediately called the lead on this case with CBI. It's Kirby Lewis. They had just changed the investigative leads to Kirby at that time. And so he gave me Kirby's number straight away, but he didn't want to see it. And his biggest excuse was he the cops are out to get me. Yeah. But I can't say anything bad about them because I work with them every day because I'm a volunteer firefighter. So if I talk bad about them, they're not going to like me at work anymore. I said, what's more important, Barry? This is your wife and what are you talking about? How the cops are going to look at you and just from speaking your truth? It was amazing to see that.
And we'll, as I said, we'll get you back on. It's a strange time. For me personally, which by the way is redundant, and I hate when people say for me personally, and I just did it, but just because I'm in mid-travel here, but we will get you guys back on and circle, around on all of this stuff, and I will try to get Ms. Scharf on the program as well. Carol, we'll wrap up in just a moment or two. What's your take? This was sort of the curveball here on that DNA found in Suzanne's car. It was an incomplete profile. Do you have any idea what the reason is that it got there? Was he working at a car wash? There's all kinds of speculation out there. But bottom line is that helped the defense, certainly. But was that a big nothing burger or was it something?
It was a nothing burger. The people whose DNA, I think there were 3 people. 2 of them had, was it 3? Yeah. 2 of them had alibis. Yeah. And the third, I don't remember. But
from Arizona.
Eliminated that person as well. Yeah. Prescott, Arizona.
Yeah, I was just reading the case file or the actual communication from the detectives.
Can I just speak on that there on the DNA? It's been rattled around all from Irish Eaton and all the camps, the Barry camps, basically, and it keeps coming up, and it's just to put doubt into people's mind is what it's there for. But if you just say that DNA was a sexual offender. So
a profile or a partial profile. Okay.
Yeah, partial profile. Just say it was true that DNA was from an abductor. So the theory would be that she was abducted from the house. So you're talking about an abductor going to the house, sees all the cameras there, but still goes in. And he goes in, he takes her bike, takes her helmet, takes her Al-Anon book or her diary, he takes her phone, he takes her charger, he puts the dart sheet in the drawer, and he does all, and takes the her towel which she was sunbathing on, which was never recovered either from the house. So this is what the abductor does. He takes all these things. The Al-Anon book then is destroyed in the fire, which is actually mentioned in the her grievances that Barry wrote into her Al-Anon book. And then he takes Suzanne in his own vehicle with the bike and the helmet, drives out, plants the bike down the embankment, then drives up to 50, throws the helmet out, and then in the same place where Suzanne's phone was pinging at the hour of 4 a.m. that previous morning. It's all too strange. Do you know what I mean?
So her phone was pinging where that helmet was found?
Just along where the helmet was found, all the way up to Garfield, I believe.
Close
to
to where the
Garfield.
helmet was.
But
It was pinging in a place where it shouldn't have been pinging.
Along the Arkansas River, basically, at the South Arkansas River. You know the creek at the back of the house? Along that river, basically, between there and the 50.
Well, do you think the phone was thrown into the river, or do you think she
No,
was in the river with the phone in her back pocket?
I don't know what he was doing down there, but it could be.
We'll let you look at the data and you can decide.
Her phone.
Okay.
Her phone and his phone.
Amazingly interesting. Martin, had you ever investigated a case prior to this, Martin?
No, I haven't really.
Don't say no. Don't say no. This man is one of them. I've worked with law enforcement on many, many, many cases throughout the years. I've been in courts testifying. I've done a lot of things. This man is one of the best true investigators I've ever met.
Wow.
Truly.
Very, very interesting. Celestial here
You're only
says,
saying
Carol,
that is true.
yeah, Carol, you will be absolutely blown away by their information. Barry did not call Suzanne Pryor like hardly ever. So I will connect you guys, obviously offline. Carol McKinley, for those who do not know, is a freelance print and broadcast journalist who has been covering news from the Rocky Mountains for 30 years. She's written extensively about this for the Denver Gazette. Do you have hope, Carol? Where do we go from here? And someone just asked here, and I'm curious about your take. Should Colorado appoint a special prosecutor for the next quote unquote rodeo / trial?
Yes. It'll be a long time though.
They will need to, I don't know what's going to happen with Linda Stanley.
She's not going to step down.
She won't step down.
So
What does she have? A year and a half left?
You
know, maybe there will be someone really good who steps in at that prosecutor role so that they don't have to appoint a special prosecutor. So in essence, it would be a new prosecutor looking at the case. You know, she could be in trouble, and a lot of the people who work under her in Fremont County, in one of the counties in that district, they're all, you know, a couple of them are being investigated. So there's a lot up in the air with the investigation. I don't know how much the people who are on this team, I don't know if they're still going to be around
right
after the next year. So, yeah, I mean, it's up to the governor, isn't it, to appoint a special prosecutor?
Yeah, the county commissioners can actually institute that in Colorado in certain circumstances. The attorney general can voluntarily reach out and request, would you like to have a special prosecutor, which is what should be done, because as long as Linda Stanley is in office or any of the people that are in this lawsuit are in their positions, there was never going to be a case presented to the courts involving Barry Morphew.
Well, but they got to find the body.
They don't. There's enough circumstantial evidence. So? If you have, if I had 12 of those 14 witnesses, expert witnesses in court, my 9-year-old kid could prosecute this case.
Yeah.
Interesting. One more question for Carol here, and then we'll wrap up with Martin Kurt and Vroom, a friend of the show. How do you read Barry Morphew's lawyer's statement outside of court when the case was dismissed? The quote is, "They're not going to find a body that can be linked to Mr. Morphew." Shrewd phrasing. Did you make anything? Did it raise your eyebrows at all, Carol?
Well, sure. Iris is brilliant. You know, I I think she really believes Barry's innocent, and she believes that someone else did it. And if they find a body that's not linked to Barry, maybe it's linked to someone else. That's what she's saying. She's never
But
going to.
Barry did say after he got the case dismissed, the killer is still out there. That kind of dismisses the fact that she could be abducted or she left Gone Girl style and all that stuff.
Yeah,
the killer is still
think
out
they
there.
back down on the whole abducted thing. That can't, come on. She loved her daughter so much, and you never heard from her again. She never opened up those videos from Sheila Oliver.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's a little reminiscent of that comment's reminiscent of OJ. This comment, Hope Rocks. We've had hunters chime in on Barry's methods. So many people with different experiences and perspectives and expertise on this case. I want to give a big thanks to Kurt Simpson, who also goes by AK, the founder of the nonprofit group Hope Rocks. He works alongside Martin Smallwood, not Underwood, as I had been auto-corrected to on my tweets. And Hope Rocks is comprised of hundreds of volunteers from around the world coming together for the sole purpose of crowdsourcing investigations. That's really amazing. I screamed to my wife about technology, how it's going to destroy our kids, but look, it's doing positive things too. It is helping to crowdsource these investigations. Martin, your final thoughts, and then I'll have Kurt give us his. But Martin, anything you'd like to add?
Let Kurt go first.
There was never a bike ride. I hate whenever the national media opens up when this woman went for a bike ride. No, Suzanne was not. She was not an avid biker. She'd only been biking for a few months, and she rode in the afternoon. She was not known as a morning person. So even the husband, who didn't really stay at the house very often, didn't even understand the cycle of her daily routine. So there was never a bike ride. And all we want to do is find Suzanne with the data and with bright minds coming together, looking at it in different ways and picking it apart. That's it.
Martin, save the best for last. By the way, these are best guests. What I was saying is that they are just not professional investigators, which we typically have on. But these are the types of people that help solve crimes. And I wouldn't be surprised if Martin and Kurt get to the bottom of this, and a guy like Special Agent Grusing, Johnny Grusing, who's become a friend of the show, you might come out and say, hey, these guys helped me solve this. I would not be surprised at all. Martin, you're sitting in Ireland. It'd be the irony of ironies if you can help solve a case here in the United States. What are your final thoughts? Are we on the road to justice here?
I think it's going to be a long road still. But I think if they got cadaver dogs back at this time, that they could knock out a lot of these places where we think Suzanne may be, narrow down the search again, basically. But I think it's time now to bring the dogs back, the cadaver dogs.
We have very specific places for them.
Yes.
To go. And we've hired out of state dogs on our own before, out of pocket.
Broomfield, wasn't it?
Yeah. But this one, it's on private property. It's not something that we want to mess with, and plus, what are they going to do? There's no really incentive right now for them to truly find Suzanne. That's the sad part. So if they get some citizen investigator out there with some dogs that might be certified in Colorado as cadaver dogs and have had thousands of discoveries of bones from 500 years old, if they have that, you're running around there, they're not going to be too happy about it, because we're accelerating their timeline a little bit too fast for them. So we just want to partner with.
They've got some very interesting places. Let's put it that way. Very, very interesting places.
As you just
no.
Yeah, I was going to say, as you guys just alluded to here too, Barry Morphew himself said the killer is still out there. Barry, these gentlemen tell me that you are watching this, so you have an open invite. I know you have some pending litigation going on with a civil case, but you are always welcome on this show. I'd love to get your perspective and your take, especially if you say the killer's out there. Maybe you can help us find the the killer. Celestial says, hit that like button for this panel. Please do that. Martin, I did not mean to cut you off. Finish that thought.
I can't remember what it was now, but
I
I will
cut
say,
Martin off all the time.
I will say that Barry put up a reward for his wife, but the reward was for her safe return. So we might as well have given $1 billion up for a reward, because if he knew she wasn't coming back, he wasn't losing any money. So,
wow. Well, listen, this has been a fascinating hour and 20 minutes. I appreciate.
Wow.
The
Sorry,
guests
it's been so
flew
long.
by. I'm going to have you guys back on for sure.
brilliant.
For full disclosure, as I said, I'm a little out of sorts myself. Had a really big interview last night with Ross Coulthart, who is the investigative reporter with the UFO whistleblower. And then I traveled with, 2 hours of sleep. So I'm discombobulated. But we got Carol on here, which I'm psyched for. We have Kurt and Martin, and we will get you back with Ms. Scharf as well once I return, and we will stay on the story and try to get justice. Until then, love you, America.
Adios.
Love you,
Bye, everybody.
Colorado. And panel, hang on for 1 second. Until tomorrow, live, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Great Scott, True Crime Phil, with Scott Duffy, former FBI agent, and Detective Phil Waters of the Houston PD. Tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern.